Welcome to the April 13th Board of Selectmen meeting and public hearing. We'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is approve the minutes from the February 9th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. We will now move into public hearing on the proposed ordinance changes, and Alex, we'll let you kind of lead that off as far as each of the proposed changes, what they are and what they're for, and then we'll see if there's any comment on those.
Sure. All right. So the first one is basically for road and street definitions across multiple ordinances, land use, shoreline zoning, and the street ordinance and subdivision regulations. So what we did is we looked at the definition for road and street in all of those documents to make sure that they all matched, because what we found is each one had a different definition, and it was making things a little problematic. So that's really all that one is. Do you want to stop at each one, or do you want to just keep going through them?
Don't see any requests for comments, so we'll move on to the next one.
Okay. The next one is a little bit more complicated. This one is for the street ordinance, and it basically updates the appendix. And the reason for doing that was to accommodate some additional information and requirements for emergency access. So we'll have some new turnaround details, as well as some fire department requirements for turnarounds, parking, and some other details like angle of approach for the fire truck. And that is basically just in the appendix, that all of this information would be updated. So that's it on that one. The next one is also for the street ordinance. It's kind of a continuation, but this next one is for multiple different sections within the street ordinance. And so what we've done here is we have updated the maximum grade allowed for a backlot driveway. Was originally 12%, and now it would be reduced to 10%. But we've added in a waiver section. So the planning board has the ability to grant a waiver to that in certain situations. So a bulk of the amendment for this one is in that new waiver section. And then we also added the requirement for, on dead-end streets, the requirement for a turnaround, which would need to be basically for dead-end streets that exceed 1,000 feet. They would have to have a turnaround. And that's basically, again, that kind of falls under the emergency access, making sure that if there was something, an emergency event that were to take place, that we could have multiple turnout points and turnaround points. Any questions so far?
Not seeing any, no.
Okay, cool. The next one is for clearing of vegetation. This one was one of the amendments that kind of had, I guess you could say, had more back and forth between board members. And basically, there's a section of the ordinance that limits the amount of lot area that can be cleared in town. And it doesn't allow for any development beyond that threshold. And that kind of creates, I guess it's a little problematic to have that. So what we've essentially done is said the threshold is going to stay the same, but if someone now wants to exceed that, they basically need to go before the planning board and go through site plan. So now they'll be able to exceed that threshold with planning board approval. So it is kind of relaxing that standard a little bit, but if they can meet all the requirements of site plan through the planning board, then they should be fine. So that's essentially what that amendment will achieve. The next one is more of a clerical amendment. It's to fix an error in the ordinance for mixed building use in the commercial district. Basically right now, what the ordinance says makes no sense at all. So we are just updating what we believe was an error in 2009 to allow for commercial and residential uses in the same building, as long as the upper floor is where the residential use would be. Right now, it doesn't allow for, basically it says that the upper floor needs to be the commercial use, which really makes no sense for a commercial setting to have the residential use be on the first floor and the commercial on the second. So we are just correcting that. The next one is kind of another correction in a sense. The ordinance requires currently any septic system, residential septic system that's going in basically near any perennial water body needs to be designed according to the Portland Water District standards. And it specifically in the ordinance references the Portland Water District regulations as of June 3rd, 1988. So those are no more, those have gone away. So we are updating the reference. We've also changed it from perennial water body to a great pond. That's going to be a lot easier to enforce. And it's a little bit of a relaxation, but at the same time, we're still much more strict than other towns, because for most towns, the Portland Water District standards only apply to septic systems within 200 feet of Sebago. So we are saying anything within 250 feet of any great pond needs to meet the Portland Water District wastewater disposal system permit protocol, which essentially means that bedrooms need to be designed at 120 gallons per day instead of 90. And the planning board felt that it was best to kind of keep this more strict than what's required because of all the short-term rentals, Airbnb rentals near the lakes that take place. They felt it makes sense to have a septic system that's designed for a higher use. Let's see, next is another very minor update to the Zoning Board of Appeals section. Essentially, it just requires that if a variance is approved by the ZBA, that a document needs to be recorded with the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds within 90 days that essentially records that decision from the ZBA. So, and I believe that's actually state law. That's been done for a number of years, and it's something that was on our ZBA application and has been a common practice, but it wasn't in the ordinance. So I just wanted to make sure that we put that in the ordinance as well. Next one is another easy one. We're just updating the reference for junkyards. The waste material accumulation section in the land use ordinance has an outdated statute reference. So that's just clerical. The next one would be amendments to the fire protection ordinance. So fire protection is a separate document that really doesn't require planning board approval to update. However, it's been common practice over the years to still have the planning board review these changes, because a lot of what they do closely involves this document. So they did review this, and they did actually, on all of these ordinance amendments, they did vote to recommend approval. This one as well. So essentially this amendment to the fire protection ordinance updates the code reference, and then it also would require residential sprinkler systems for dwelling units 4,800 square feet and larger. So that would mean any residential sprinkler or any residential dwelling that's being built larger than 4,800 square feet would need an approved residential sprinkler system, regardless of the location in town. So currently in Raymond, we have some subdivisions that require sprinkler systems regardless of the size of the dwelling, but it's not town-wide. This would be a town-wide rule as we go into the fire protection ordinance. Any questions on that one? Sweet. One more. The last one is for tiny homes. We wanted to kind of dip our toe in the water on the tiny homes thing. It's kind of something that's been growing over the years. There really is not a lot out there at the state level and really the local level on tiny homes. A lot of towns haven't really jumped in on regulating them. The state has started to put information out there, but the tiny homes are falling into really more of an RV category at the state level, which we kind of wanted to go the other direction on. So all we've essentially done is created a definition that is almost exactly the same as the definition for a dwelling unit, which will match the land use ordinance does not currently allow for an RV to be used as a dwelling unit year round. So we kind of wanted to maintain that with the tiny homes. If they're going to be treated as an RV, it's not really going to work with our ordinance. So we're creating a definition. There isn't really specific standards coming along with the definition yet. Our plan is to get the definition in for now, and then as more stuff is released and changed in the next coming couple of years from the state and other towns, then we will revisit if it's necessary. And that is the last one.
Yeah, I have not seen any hands raised for comments.
No, there are none.
Okay, so in that case, we will close the public hearing and move back into the select board hearing or select board meeting. Next item of business is a request for town facilities assistance for the 2021 UCAN 5K. Brenda, do you want to speak on that?
Yes, Don told me to present. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Don told me to present on what we've done in the past, and we couldn't do last year, but we're attempting to do it again this year with the UCAN 5K starting at the Sherry Gagnon Park on Mill Street in Raymond, and then ending back there as well on June 27th. The start time for that for registration is 7:30. The actual kids run will be at 9, and then the 5K runners and walkers will be starting at 9:30. It's usually a very fast in and out and done within an hour and a half of the whole thing, and the proceeds will be going towards the town of Raymond for extra projects that I'm sure are going to probably head towards Tasseltop, but that's what we plan on doing. We've had support before from Bruce at the fire station just for safety, and we do have the sheriff's department usually does a very good job of a volunteer service of closing down the roads so that we can have safety, especially out on 302 when we go down that stretch. Is there any questions or?
Sam, Teresa?
Nope.
In that case, I'll take a motion to on allowing the UCAN 5K.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Next item is, thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Next item is a consideration of liquor license renewal for Fisherman's Catch.
And in your packet, you received the application from Mr. Coppersmith and the fire inspection, which I believe, Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, but he passed that. But we do have some concerns. And you also had in your packet the outstanding personal property taxes for Mr. Coppersmith, as well as some statute and rules that are used by the Department of Liquor Enforcement. And it is the selectman's prerogative to either deny or accept his liquor license application contingent upon paying said taxes. And I know Sue Carr is in the call, as well as Kurt LaBelle, if for the contract assessor, if any of their testimony would be helpful to you.
You know what the amount is? Because I'm not finding that. I'm sorry. Oh, wait a minute. I'm looking back up. Okay.
The grand total was 1,400 some, and it goes back to when Mr. Coppersmith first bought the property.
1463.25.
Yes,
And there's been, Mr. Coppersmith has owned it the entire time, correct?
yes, in that time period, yes. And Don has his hand up, Mr. Chair.
This is a long-standing issue that has been brought to Mr. Coppersmith's attention, and I believe it needs to be resolved. You know, it's a fairness, it's an equity issue. You know, other people pay their personal property taxes. He needs to do that as well on a, you know, annual basis. And so, you know, I think that we need to get this resolved. It's dragged on for a number of years,
Oh, no, wrong one.
and it's long overdue.
Can I ask why they're not being paid?
I think Alex has something too.
Alex, go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, I just think that as I was reviewing the chart of accounts and I noticed that these taxes haven't been paid for several years, I would highly recommend that the board, you know, I just want to make sure we don't set precedents by not having these paid. It's based on my conversation with Sue Carr, the tax collector. These are the only personal property taxes that haven't been paid.
Can I ask why they haven't been paid? Can Mr. Coppersmith answer that?
Yes, I can actually. I actually have no problem paying my personal property taxes, especially at 98 to, I think it's up to 106 a year at this point. What was brought to me, I believe it was a year or two ago, was the letter, as it says in the packet. They finally sent a notice of personal property taxes owed to me to my home address. It was the first mailing that I have ever gotten of it. So I called the town and said, you know, what is this? We're up to $1,000, and that seems a lot for 1 year. She explained to me, no, it's for the past 8 or 9 years or whatever it is. And I said, well, why am I just getting this now? And she explained to me that they couldn't find my mailing address. My mailing address is the same address that I get my property taxes sent to, let alone I live in town. I frequent the town hall often with as many vehicles as I have for my commercial plowing business. And the town frequents my business quite oftenly. So I find it quite odd that they couldn't find my mailing address for such a small amount. I really have no problem paying $100 a year for my personal property tax. And I definitely don't have a problem paying my personal property tax now to get my liquor license. And it says in the packet that I refused to pay them, or said I was not going to pay them. I didn't say that. But I will ask that the town considers before I didn't get a bill for a number of years to waive the $370.86 in late charges. Again, I have no problem paying $100 a year. That's not an issue.
Can either of the Sues speak to that? That's not my understanding of the situation at all. And I'd also like to point out that there isn't a requirement under law to send a bill at all. It's incumbent upon the owner to understand and know that personal property taxes are due and payable to the town. But that stated, I mean, we make a concerted effort to send the bill. And so the bills were sent. And so I guess I would ask Sue Carr and or Sue Luck to explain exactly what happened with those bills.
I really don't know what happened,
But you sent them.
but I sent them. They go out both halves every year in September and then in March. If they don't come back to me, I have no way of knowing that they didn't receive them. And if they do come back, then I search for an address, a different address, or the owners. I had 26 businesses in town that did not pay their personal property tax. And going through this whole procedure, I got all but one that wouldn't pay. I had 22 from Cocatosi. I got all but one that didn't pay. And then I had 6 from Indian Point, and they've all paid. And they were all back taxes that they stated that they didn't get or they didn't understand they had to pay.
And I know there is another mailing that's sent out annually that again that we have no record of it ever coming back undeliverable. And that's the declaration form where you have the opportunity of letting us know what business equipment that you have to run your business. And we have no record that ever came back undeliverable. So they have been sent.
I have one thing to say about that, if I may. I just got my very first declaration this year, ever. And I actually talked to the town. This is how I knew this was coming about, through the town meeting. I talked to Kayla about it with help filling it out. Now, again, everybody knows I've been in this town and in this business for a considerable amount of time. So I'm pretty used to what goes on and what's coming down the pipeline. So the fact that I got my first declaration, I don't know where the disconnect is. Again, we're talking $100 a year. The fact of dodging $100 a year seems ridiculous, especially where it can hinder a license of any sort. I've never filled out a declaration. You're absolutely right. I just got my first one this year.
Let me ask you a question. Is the address, what's the address you're using, Sue, for Mr. Coppersmith?
Roosevelt Trail, whatever number that is.
And it's not coming back to you?
It's not coming back.
Okay.
What was the address you were using a few years ago?
I don't know, but if it comes back, then I research it. If it doesn't, I have no way of knowing you didn't receive it.
Sure.
Yeah, do you mind if I chime in really quickly on this? I do believe there was an error on the account. Mr. Coppersmith, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know the history on this, but was the
Sure.
restaurant once called Fisherman's Net? And was that owned by someone that you purchased the business from in 2009 or 10 or whatever year that was? Is that how that unfolded?
Correct. It was the Fisherman's Net. Yes. And I
Yeah.
think there is something to be said there, because my declaration showed up in the mail and it was addressed to Fisherman's Net this few weeks ago.
So I think that the town, because I think what happened is that the business was sold and the town continued to mail things to perhaps the prior owner who resided in Portland under Fisherman's Net. Now, normally we would get some response from someone who'd sold the business, telling us who the new owner was. That's one of the things that we asked for. It is, it is possible that some of these older bills didn't reach him. They didn't come back to us. I will say though, however, the fact that we haven't received any declarations for several years with additional equipment added, it's likely that the actual taxes assessed are probably lower than they actually should have been. They've accumulated over several years, but knowing what the average cost of a restaurant equipment is, I'm guessing that these bills are probably on the low side. I believe the assessment is still the carryover of the original equipment of the restaurant from 2004. So there may be a situation where some of these addresses were incorrect in the initial. I believe we've corrected it over the last couple of years, but some of the old stuff, it's possible that it didn't go to where it should have. But it was delivered, never came back, and it never got on our radar as to there being a problem. That part that's for sure.
Kurt, do you know who the prior owner was?
No, I don't. I don't know who the individual was. I believe the bills under Fisherman's Net were being sent to like Riverside Drive, Portland. I can't recall the number, but they were going out of town.
Can I ask a question? So, Mr. Coppersmith, you've owned it then since 2010, correct?
2009.
2009. Okay. And you've only paid 1 year then for the business taxes, correct?
Just this year, actually.
Right. So that's what I saw.
Yep.
Okay. So then I guess I'd like to propose, because listening to Sue and listening to Kurt and listening to Mr. Coppersmith here, is he would owe the town from 2009 to present minus that one payment that he made. And because it could have been going to the Riverside one under Fisherman's Net instead of Fisherman's Catch. So we do drop the interest, but he does owe the principal.
Correct.
From that up. Because there's a disconnect definitely somewhere. I don't think it's on anybody's fault, to be honest. I think we were sending it out. And somebody wasn't telling you about the bill. They figured throwing it away. So, yeah.
Teresa, the only thing I think I would just ask that the board consider, and I'm not going one way or the other on this, is that there are many times where taxpayers do not receive their tax bills because maybe they don't tell us their address has changed or for whatever reason, and the bills do accrue interest. They doesn't usually go on this long, but just ask that the board be mindful that this is a semi-regular occurrence with people, and the answer is generally the same, that we don't, if the bill is late, it's their responsibility to let us know where these bills are supposed to go. Not saying that this isn't an extenuating circumstances, but just be aware this is a problem on a smaller scale that happens regularly.
Okay, thanks for telling me that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And just to add to that, technically, we don't even have to send out bills to people. They know that they have a business or they have property, they have taxes to pay. And it's their responsibility to find out. We do send them out right now twice a year. And it's just, basically easier than answering phone calls all day long as to how much do I owe.
All right, so talking to Rolf right now and Sam, what do you guys propose on this then? Because I want to get this cleaned up.
Well, I mean, let's look at it, from, so what he's saying is he'll pay the principal that's there. What's in question is the interest, which, waiving that is probably somewhat reasonable based on the fact that there's questions as to whether the bills got there or not, whether we were actually responsible to send them out or not is, I think, if from good practice, you would send out bills anyway. And as long, and as long as the agreement is there that going forward, they are going to be paid on time, then I think that is a reasonable approach.
Well, if they're not gonna be paid on time, then they will go back to that interest charge. Yeah. Sam, what do you think? Unmute. It's the first time I've asked Sam to unmute.
I'm going to mute again. And I quite agree with Rolf's idea there. The only thing that concerns me is that we set a precedent here by doing that. And but as long as we have a solid agreement that going forward, this will not happen again, I'm in favor of doing it, just to get this over with.
Right,
It's
and to
nobody-
clean it up.
as you said, it's nobody's fault. It's not Mr. Coppersmith's fault, and it's not the town's fault, apparently. So,
But now everybody is on notice that bills go out.
yes,
Business bills, yes.
absolutely, yeah.
All right, do you need a motion, Rolf?
Yes.
All right, I make a motion that we adjust the fisherman's catch personal property taxes to $1,092.39 and waive the interest charge on there of $370.86.
Second,
Those in favor? All hands raised, motion is carried. The second item there is the consideration of the liquor license.
motion to approve it.
Can I, a motion to approve it based on after he pays his taxes?
Thank you.
Well, yeah,
That's what Sam meant to say, and I second it.
yes.
You in agreement with that?
Good,
Sue?
because that's what I typed.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the liquor license, subject to the payment of the
1,092.
back taxes. All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Next item, consideration of zoning board of appeals appointment. And who's going to speak on that?
I can. Mr. Hennessy, I believe, is here. He is. He just popped in. You have his application in your packet, and he's here to answer any questions that you may have. And the zoning board has met and said, yes, they'd love to have him, I believe.
Any
But
questions
isn't,
from the board on
is
this?
he on the planning board or the planning board of appeals?
That's the zoning board of appeals.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay.
Got to get to the right section here.
No, I got it on my phone, small.
Well, it's such a small packet.
Yeah.
I got it on my phone. All right.
It got lost in the other 150 pages of your agenda.
There we go.
One, I want to say thank you for stepping up and wanting to be on one of the boards.
You're welcome.
So what do you think you can bring to the table?
Well, I have a 30-year career in the Navy, 35 years
you.
at Bath Iron Works. I practiced design and engineering work in the shipyard business, and I'm retired and looking for a little volunteer work to pay back to the community. I lived in Harpswell for 30 years, I guess, and been part-time in Raymond for the last 12 years, and now full-time the last probably 4 or 5.
Have you watched any of the zoning board meetings to get a flavor for how they go, and you're comfortable with that?
Yes, I've been to several site visits and I've been to the zoning, or one way or another attended the zoning board of appeals for probably the last 4 months, 5 months.
Great. Other
Cool.
questions?
Nope, need a motion?
Yes. it's,
I make a motion to accept the application of Tom Hennessy for the planning board / planning board of appeals.
I second that.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Next item is Tassel Top event fee.
Thank you very much. Do you want
Thank
me to
you.
continue
great.
on this or just go back to mute?
Thank you.
Whichever you
You
prefer.
watch or you
Yeah,
can-
I'll go back to mute.
Entirely up to you. Tassel Top event fees and update. Joe?
Yes, I'm proposing a couple additional fees for Tasseltop Park. The first is a summer camp group fee of $3 per person. This will be for groups over 20. We've got a lot of requests from recreation departments. They have summer camps that run August through July, and they tend to pay by person because a lot of their budgets, registration fees are kind of based off that. So we would book them some space and charge them $3 per person when they arrive at Tasseltop. Any questions on that? And the second would be a wedding fee of $4,000. We had our first kind of soft opening for a wedding last season. It went really well. We got I think a 50 by 50 tent in sorry, kids going to bed. We got 50 by 50 tent in the front, and they used the cabin to get ready, and down at the beach to have a reception. So this would be another revenue stream kind of outside of that peak season. We could host weddings for spring and fall, maybe a little bit later, fall, October, November, if weather permits. So those are the 2 fees.
What if you wanted a summer wedding down there? What would you do?
It'd be very, very tough. We have the cabin rental booked for Memorial Day, so at 19 weeks. So it'd be tough. So it'd have to be outside. Unless it's a small reception, we could possibly have some space in the circle near the gatehouse, or in the new space down by the snack shack.
Okay.
Did you rework the agreement to, as we were discussing last year, on the, deposits and things like that?
As far as the not the cabin rental agreement, was it? It was the
No, it was one that
group
you were
reserv-
doing more toward the weddings because of the receptions and things like that.
No, I think I just added was the rule about alcohol, but I can double check on that.
Nope.
Have you had any requests for this year yet on that?
Nothing yet. I didn't want to advertise it just yet, but I do know there's a bunch of postponed weddings that will be happening. So I can draft up that group, update that group reservation agreement, and make sure that you guys approve that as well.
Other questions? Sam,
Yep.
Teresa?
No,
Is there a motion to accept those fees?
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? None. All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Next item is consideration of tax abatements and supplemental assessments. Kurt, you're on again.
Okay, so I have 2 tax abatements and 1 supplemental assessment that goes with one of the abatements. First abatement is a name correction goes with the supplemental tax to Anne Marie Buck. The Bucks purchased 2 properties from Mr. DeVideo's estate, and we made a mistake and we only processed one of those, and we taxed Mr. DeVideo for the other one in error. So we're just taking action to correct the record. It's revenue neutral. So we clear Mr. DeVideo out and make a new assessment to the Bucks for the property that they purchased. And the second tax abatement is a small tax abatement. It came to us, the applicant has purchased the property from a relative and noticed that the property record card had listed as a full basement. It doesn't have a basement, it has only a crawl space, a dirt crawl space. Did inspect the property, found a few other data errors held over probably from the reval. Doesn't have any, so it uses wood heat, doesn't have a central heating system, and overall condition is fair condition for its age. So we're actually making a little slightly bigger adjustment than what the applicant asked for, but in the interest of fairness, felt it was appropriate. That's it.
I mean, the Bucks understand this, that the reassessment's coming to them, so they have no problem.
Yeah, I contacted the Bucks this fall when we first noticed the problem, and how I typically handle these is because supplemental taxes are due 60 days after issuance. I usually reach out to the person involved and I tell them that I will wait and hold it and issue the supplemental in the spring so that they're not hit with the whole entire year's tax at once. I try to match it up to the second payment of taxes. So they know it's coming. This was going to be on the March agenda. That's why the dates are wrong, but I've issued corrected ones for your signatures to Sue. So they're all redated for tonight.
Teresa, you want to make some motions?
Yeah, and it's going to be the amount is fine. Okay, so a motion to accept the certificate of abatement it's going to go from DeVideo James to the Bucks in the amount of $511.97. Did I say that right?
For a second, Sam?
Yeah. Second.
All those
Yep.
in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried.
All right, the second one's a motion to accept the certificate of abatement for Natalie Foss in the amount of $212.04. Sam, second.
Second, yes.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried.
Do we need to do one for the Bucks?
Yes, a supplemental tax for the Bucks for $511.97.
All right, so a motion to accept the supplemental tax warrant for the Bucks. I'm just trying to find their name here, sorry.
Yeah, Richard H. Buck and Anna Marie Buck.
All right, $511.97.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried.
Great, thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, at this point, what I'm going to do is move things a little bit out of order and move for public comment on any of the items that are going to be in the warrants for the budget items, because we've had the budget hearings and whatnot. So just a chance for any last comments from people on those items, and then we'll go into moving the warrant items.
I see no hands raised.
Okay, seeing those hands raised, we will go into the right spot here. Okay. Article 1. Well, that doesn't need a motion. Article 2, referendum question or referendum question A, to see if the town will vote to set the date for the first half of taxes to be due April 31st, 2021, and the second half of taxes due April 30th, 2022. Set the interest rate for unpaid balances for abated taxes at 6% for the fiscal year. Authorize the tax collector or treasurer to accept prepayments of taxes not yet committed pursuant to 36 MRSA 506 with no interest, and authorize the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the town to sell and dispose of any properties acquired by the town for non-payment of taxes pursuant to the policies adopted by the Select Board. As may be amended from time to time, the policy to remain consistent with the state statutes and laws, and in all cases, convenience to be made by municipal quitclaim deed. Is there a motion?
So moved. So
Second.
moved. Thanks.
All those in favor?
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
You may.
The state does allow the interest rate to be between 4 and 6%. The selectmen have traditionally gone with the higher amount, but if you would want to go with something different, there would need to be a motion to amend that first.
The reading was at 6%, and that's what was
Yes.
moved.
Okay.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, board recommends. Article 3. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $2,016,154 for the general government services, administration, employees, compensation, training, insurances, workers' comp and benefits, liability, vehicle insurance, assessing, code enforcement, parks, recreation, technology, and general assistance. Budget figures are assigned as follows: administration at $529,150, employees' compensation and training at $67,500, insurance, workers' comp and benefits at $742,500, liability and vehicle insurance at $51,750, assessing, which includes $100,000 towards the reval of $161,551, code enforcement of $141,739, parks and recreation at $125,564, technology at $188,400, general assistance at $8,000.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend another 20,000 in the Parks and Recreation. So take it from 125,564 to 145,564, please. So you'd have to adjust that other number.
Okay. So you're making, so we're adding 20,000.
So whatever, should be $2,036,154.
Okay, so the motion being made is to move it at $2,036,154. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, the motion is carried. Referendum or Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,362,433 for public works, which consists of public works at $884,019, town buildings at $35,100, solid waste at $398, $669, cemeteries at $44,645.
Motion to recommend $1,362,433.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $987,544 for public safety. This figure consists of the Fire and Rescue Department at $947,988, Animal Control at $39,556.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the Animal Control And I'm gonna ask Alex to kind of jump in here to give me some numbers. I'd like to take the 39,556 for animal control up to, I'm gonna just round it up another 4 cents to 73,000 as a placeholder. So whatever the 73,000 is in the 947, 988, Alex.
I would like to hear a little bit more on that. Is that to put animal control in Raymond and not the way it
I
is now?
am looking to be able to have a placeholder for some options. And one of those options would be to not have our animal control position in 3
Oh,
towns. So we have
okay.
more service, I believe, in Raymond. I think
That's-
we can also utilize that person maybe in another department too.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Second.
So you can go 2 different ways. We can add an additional 33,444. Are you looking to put a placeholder, or are you trying to get to the 73,000?
I want the 73,000 in there.
Okay, so
sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It'd be the 73,000 plus the 947, 988.
Right, which would be 987,544.
Correct.
So a motion, what is it, 987?
987,544.
Okay, so that motion then would be to recommend $987,544.
Wait a minute. No, that number's not right.
Alex, give me a number.
Yeah, so the number that I have, so currently right now for animal control, so if you wanted to bring it up to, let's see,
73 even.
then we would need to add another minus 39, 6, 33,444 to bring it up to 73,000.
$1,020,988.
So what, I'm sorry, what?
$1,020,988.
Okay, 980, that's what I got. All right, so we're gonna motion to amend.
No, well, you're making the motion. You're making the motion to raise and appropriate $1 million.
$1,020,988. Is that what you got, Alex?
I have a different figure. I have what for the total article 4 would be 1,395,877.
Whoa, where'd you get that one?
So I'm looking at Article 4. Are you looking at the
5.
actual?
5.
Oh, sorry about that. My mistake.
987,988 plus 73.
And I have it as 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I have 120,988.
1,020,988.
And is it correct you want the article for animal control to go to 73,000, not to add an additional 73?
No, I want to take out the 39,556 and put 73,000 in.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wrote down for a motion is to recommend increasing animal control to 73,000, making the total 1,020,988.
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Next item is to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to dispose of town-owned property with a value not to exceed $35,000.
Motion to recommend Article 6.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Next item, see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to appropriate from undesignated fund balances surplus to meet the unanticipated needs of the community that occurred during the fiscal year and to adjust the tax rate as the select board deems advisable, the amount not to exceed $75,000.
Motion to recommend Article 7.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to transfer funds between appropriation accounts as long as the grand total of all appropriations is not exceeded. Any such transfers to be approved only at a properly called public meeting of the select board.
Motion to recommend Article 8.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to allow the town staff to make applications for and execute any documents related to a grant, accept or reject grants, donations, gifts of money to the town of Raymond, and to authorize the expenditure of monies awarded, donated, and/or gifted for the purposes specified in the grants, donations, and/or gifts.
Second.
All those in favor?
No, wait a
What?
minute, I got a question.
Wait.
So allow town staff. Does that matter who? Is there a specific person? Is it,
It's
Is
to
there certain
allow the town
individuals?
staff to make applications.
and execute any documents related to grants? Okay.
Right.
Authorize the expenditure of monies awarded, donated, and or gifted.
All applications would need to be authorized through the town manager's office. All acceptances of grants and so forth would be by the Board of Selectmen.
Can I have that added in there, please? I don't mean to be difficult, but it just seems like anybody can do it and anybody can authorize it, just reading this.
I'm not quite sure where you would want to put that, in the authorized part,
The
where it says
select-
authorize expenditures? I mean, or to accept the grants.
All right, so it says allow town staff to make applications for and execute any documents related to grants. And I know there's several people that do grants. I understand that. Accept or reject grants, donations, and or gifts of money to the town of Raymond.
Right,
Who
but
would have the
that's-
authorization
that's
there?
You're misreading it. We're authorizing the select board to accept or reject grants. We're not, so the ultimate acceptance of the grant is by the select board. That's a bullet item under,
Vote to us.
you're authorizing the select board too. The only thing we're doing at the staff level, we're allowing them to write the grants.
And
The
normally the grants are,
Grant is still done by the select board.
Okay.
right, and
I
the
wasn't
grants,
reading it like that. All right. A motion to recommend Article 9. Sorry, Sue.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, the motion is carried. Next item, C, Article 10, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to appropriate from undesignated fund balance surplus to reduce the property tax commitment as the select board deems advisable in an amount not to exceed $300,000.
Motion to recommend Article 10.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $283,164 from the tax increment and pipeline Route 302 tax increment financing district for the fiscal year 2020-2021 project proposed in the tax increments financing district development plan. For details.
Motion to recommend. Motion to recommend Article 11.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the Tasseltop Park Enterprise Fund the amount of $76,393 for the administration of activities at the park and to allocate all revenues generated by the park operations to be recorded and retained in the Tasseltop Park Enterprise Fund.
Motion to recommend Article 12.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $312,000 for debt services.
Motion to recommend. Sorry. Motion to recommend Article 13.
Second.
Alex, that's the corrected figure in there, Alex?
That's correct, yes.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 14, See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $780,000 for the capital improvement program. Budget will be assigned as follows: Public Works Equipment Reserve, $215,000. Public Works Paving Road Reserve, $310,000. Municipal Facilities Improvements, $35,000. Technology, $110,000. Fire Department Equipment Facilities, $75,000. Playground Improvements, $35,000.
Motion to recommend Article 14.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 15, to see whether the town will vote to carry forward any existing fund balances in the capital improvement program accounts, the health care reimbursement accounts, and the employees' compensation account.
Motion to recommend Article 15.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $773,657,000, or yes, start that over. $773,657 for the county tax.
Motion to recommend Article 16.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Without additional comment.
Really?
To see if the town will Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $69,000 for the Raymond Village Library, provider agencies, and the regional transportation.
Motion to, oops. Go ahead. Motion to approve.
Second, and that's $1,000 for the bus. Okay. Yep.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the total sum of $1,638,160 from estimated non-property tax revenues to reduce the property tax commitment, together with all categories of funds which may be available from the federal government and any other sources.
Motion to recommend Article 18.
Second that.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to accept certain state funds as provided by the Maine State Legislature during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021, and other funds provided by any other entity, including but not limited to municipal revenue sharing, local road assistance, emergency management assistance, snowmobile registration money, homestead exemption, tree growth reimbursement, general assistance reimbursement, veterans exemption reimbursement, business equipment tax exemption reimbursement, state grants, and or other funds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to authorize the use of town employees and or town-owned equipment or independent contractors hired by the town for maintenance on private roads in special and certain circumstances wherein the public's interest.
Motion to recommend Article 20.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the money received from the state for snowmobile registrations not to exceed $2,000 to the Raymond Rattlers Snowmobile Club for maintenance of their network of snowmobile trails, on condition that those trails be open in the snow season to the public for outdoor recreation purposes at no charge, and to authorize the municipal officers to enter into an agreement with the club under such terms and conditions as the municipal officers may deem advisable for that purpose.
Can I ask how much money is in that account right now for them?
Yeah.
2,000.
There's just two.
So
That's all they have. There's no more.
No, is your question, how much did we actually get in registrations last year?
Yes.
That I don't have in front of me, but I can find that out for you.
Rolf, I'm just gonna look at you and go, what am I asking?
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure because essentially I know for the Rattlers we appropriate 2,000 last year, and essentially we receive a check from the state for 2,000 But in terms of what do we actually get for fees, that I don't know off the top of my head.
My recollection from the last report was, it was around 2006 or something, so I mean, it's fairly close to that 2000 figure.
Yeah, I'm going to be sending reports tomorrow for you also. That should include that total.
Okay, I was gonna say if it was like 2,300, 2,500, I was gonna say give them all of it, but I will do a motion to recommend the 2,000 for Article 21 since it's so close to that.
You need a second on that, or you're,
Yeah, we need a second, Stan.
yeah,
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Seeing all hands raised,
Yeah.
motion is carried. Article 22, shall Article 12 of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance, applicability and definitions of terms used in this ordinance, as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14th, 2020. Section 17, definitions of the Raymond Shoreland zoning provisions, as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14th, 2020. Section 14, definitions of the Raymond Street Ordinance, is adopted May 18th, 2002, and amended through July 14th, 2020. And Article 3, definitions of the subdivision regulations for the town of Raymond, as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in the strikeouts text as in addendum number 2.
Motion to approve Article 22, recommend Article 22.
second,
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 23, shall the appendix of the Raymond Street Ordinance, as adopted May 18th, 2002, and amended through July 14th, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strikeout text as in addendum 3.
Motion to recommend Article 23.
second,
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 24. Shall Section 5.5, Street Design Standards, Section 5.7A, Dead End Streets, and Section 10, Waivers of the Raymond Street Ordinance, as adopted May 18th, 2002, and amended through July 14th, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strike out text in amendment number 4.
Motion to recommend Article 24.
second that,
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 25, shall Article 9, minimum standards of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance, is adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14th, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in the strikeout text as in addendum number 5.
Motion to recommend Article 25.
second,
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 26, shall Article 4F, District Regulations, Commercial District of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance, is adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in strikeout text as in addendum 6.
Motion to recommend Article 26.
second,
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 27, shall Section 15K Land Use Standards Septic Waste Disposal of the Raymond Shoreland zoning provisions, as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in strikeout text as shown in addendum 7.
Motion to recommend Article 27.
second,
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 28, shall Article 6C, Board of Appeals, Appeals Procedure of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language and strike out text as in Addendum 8.
Motion to recommend Article 28.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 31, shall Article 9F, Minimum Standards Waste Material Accumulation of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in strikeouts as strikeout text as in Addendum 9.
Motion to recommend Article 31.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 32, shall Article 4 of NFPA Life Safety Code and NFPA Fire Code, NFPA 1, Article 8, New Construction, and Article 9, Building Additions of the Raymond Fire Protection Ordinance is adopted May 19, 1995, and amended through June 7, 2016, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in strikeouts as in Addendum 10.
Motion to recommend Article 32, sorry.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 33, shall Article 12, applicability and definitions of terms used in this ordinance of the Raymond Land Use Ordinance as adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14, 2020, in Section 17, definitions of the Raymond Shoreland zoning provisions adopted May 21, 1994, and amended through July 14, 2020, be further amended by adding the underscored language and removing the language in the strikeout text in Addendum 11.
Motion to recommend Article 33.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Article 34, to elect by secret, to elect by secret
But
ballot.
you don't need to recommend.
We don't need a recommendation of that.
No, and I apologize for the odd things in the agenda. I didn't intend to put the the articles for the land use here. I intended them to be only earlier, so that's my duplicate.
We knew we were going to get to it, so. Okay, so that's all the warrant article items.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I request that we set up it'll probably be a 5-minute Zoom meeting for the board to approve the entire warrant after all of the changes have been incorporated and after the Budget Finance Committee has been made their recommendations, so we have a completed document. I have found that in Title 30A, we are supposed to do that.
That we can do. We'll schedule that meeting for sometime shortly after when the Budget Committee does their recommendations on it.
And they do that on the 27th.
So we'll probably do it like that next week or something like that. Because
Very early May is when I need to get the ballots sent out. So it'll really depend on what you come up with for the next question.
Yeah, we just have to make sure, check the calendar and see what we've got there, and then we'll do that, because that'll just be a quick meeting anyway.
Yes, thank you.
Next item is consideration of method of
Alex,
voting.
what's you?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I was wondering, I just ran a couple of numbers. One of the things you may want to consider for the ACO increase is that includes some fees that we pay to the Animal Refuge League. So if you want to bring it up to exactly 73,000 specifically for the salaries, that number would have to actually be increased by, and I'll give you that number right now. Right here. 39,989 rather than 33,444.
All right, hold on a second, Jen. So what to get,
You said you got a $5,000 difference.
6,005, yeah, pretty much.
All right, at this point, rather than going back, I mean, at this point, that's kind of a placeholder anyway, while the thing's being investigated, what we want to do anyway. So it's, at this point, that's, that's kind of one of those best guess numbers, and, to try and bring that in, true defined, there's a lot of undefined, so.
we got a majority of it in. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, next discussion is method of voting the warrant for the annual town meeting.
And in your packet, I made an attempt at trying to put in pros and cons either way for whether we use secret ballot for the town meeting warrant as we did last year, or we attempt to have a open town meeting. I do need to know that in order to get ballots printed if we are going the secret ballot route. So that's why I've put this in. My preference really doesn't matter. I tried not to show it in the memo, but it is difficult to have people come out of the booth holding on to their warrant saying, can you help me with this? And we can't at an election. All we can do is hand them a multi-page addendum and say, it's in there somewhere. That's not a good answer. It doesn't feel good to the election workers to do it. So that was the only difficulty that we had, other than people did complain about how long it took to vote the ballots. And that wasn't a lot of complaints. We just got a few. But it also was a very large election, and people that aren't accustomed to seeing the warrant were voting last June. So it's really hard to compare. This comparatively will be potentially and historically a small election, since it's municipal only. There is no state ballot this year.
So can I ask you, to have a secret ballot, right? When do people pick candidates to? The same time?
There will be a secret ballot election anyway, because that's that last article where you're selecting your municipal officers. That has to be by Australian or secret ballot. So we will have an election on June 8th. The question right for here is whether we vote the remaining articles on the town meeting warrant as secret ballot, or if we go back to having what's called a bifurcated town meeting, where we have open town meeting for all of the budget and ordinance ward articles, and then we adjourn to a date certain, which is June 8th, to vote the final article.
I think more people are going to come out for ballots. I hate saying that, but I think we're going to get more people out instead of an actual open town meeting.
What's our drop date for decision?
The first week of May, I need to send out the ballots, and it will take me some time to get them organized and put together, though I've done a lot of the prep work now. So,
and what's the, well, now that you know what what it's going to look, what it would look like, what's the price for getting the ballots printed?
that I'm not sure yet, because it's really going to be a crapshoot how many ballots I print. And I've been weighing that back and forth. I was going to talk with Sue Carr, who's been my warden for a number of years, and between the two of us, we generally come up with a fairly good feel for it, but I really don't have one this year. Last year energized so many people to vote that have never voted before, but I don't know if that will carry through to this election somewhat. We do have, for the first time since no, wait a minute, we had one other contested select board race, but we do have a 3-way select board race this year, and that will bring out a few more people. So I'm kind of leaning toward possibly getting as many as 1,000 ballots, which would be huge for a municipal only election. It would be wonderful, but it would be unprecedented in Raymond. So, and the ballots tend to run 50 cents per page. Last year's ballots were, there were 4 double-sided pages of just the town warrant.
Well, I mean, there's, you got a couple moving items in here. You got the fact that we still don't know what the, what the state's ultimately going to come down on is, when we get closer to that, as far as size of meetings and things like that. So, at the end of the day, then you've got how many people are going to, if you have it, how many people are going to feel comfortable coming out to a public meeting, versus if we go the election, at least they're spread out through the day. So there's, you've got a higher probability that you'll have more representation that way. And, I think the issue that you're looking at here is, okay, we're trying to come up with a decision in the next couple of weeks, where that the only thing that's driving that is the fact of getting ballots printed. Whereas if we were, we look and see what the actual true cost is, then we know what our cost of, if we had to wait a few weeks to beyond that to come, if we order them and don't use them, then okay, we've spent that money. But the real question is, what is that dollar value?
And that's something I can get and email out tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would be, and it isn't just the ballot cost, it's also programming the machine, which will probably run $600 to $800 to program the machine for all of the ballots. Because hand counting an 8-page ballot would not be a lot of fun, and I would invite all the select board to come help.
The question I would have, and we could research this too, would be whether those costs would be reimbursable costs.
They may be, because technically the only reason we're doing this is because of COVID.
Right, and I don't know the answer. We could look into that, correct, Chief?
And another consideration, to go with what Teresa was saying earlier about having more of a turnout, is if we do go the secret ballot route, people can vote the town meeting warrant via absentee. And with open town meeting, there are no absentees. It's at the town meeting or nothing.
Right. So I mean, my recommendation is we're not making it as, that we don't not make a final decision tonight, but we gather that information. We can discuss that more, we can put that on the agenda also when we have that meeting to firm up the thing after the budget meeting.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Sam and Sam and Teresa, you all right with that?
Yep.
I'm good with it, yeah.
Okay. Next item is consideration of approving the use of the updated main moderator's manual for the town meeting.
And I found that on March 16th, 1974, the town of Raymond voted to use MMA's main moderator's manual to conduct town meetings. I'm sure it has been updated a couple of times since then, but it's been a number of years that since they've updated it. And most of it, the changes had to do with statute references and things that were no longer valid, and just trying to organize it a bit better to make it easier for folks to find things in it. The basic information from Robert's rules didn't change. It's just the organization of it did.
So essentially, what we're voting on is to use the 7th edition 2021 version of the main moderator's manual for town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. Consideration of appointing the warden for the June 8th state election.
And when I put the agenda together, I hadn't had a confirmation from the Secretary of State's office as to whether or not there would be a state election, and I've since found out there is not. We only need a warden if there's a state election. The moderator is voted in at the beginning of town meeting, and if we have an open town meeting, then they immediately will appoint a deputy so that they don't have to hang out at the election with me all day. And so this item is no longer needed. Mr. Chair, there is a hand up. Mr. Levitt has a question.
Okay, I'll allow a question. Charlie?
Yes, a point of order, Mr. Chairman. Will there be public comment tonight regarding the meeting itself? My understanding is when you did public comment, you tied it to the warrant articles, the financial warrant articles. So I did not raise my hand at that time. I'm not sure if that was confusing to other folks at the meeting. I just wanted to assure that we have an opportunity to make public comment tonight. Thank you.
There will be, yeah, what I wanted to, the reason for doing the other was because we'd had the budget hearings and whatnot, and that gave a chance for people to comment on those rather than breaking the flow of those and just going through those.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so item J is no longer required.
That's correct.
The next item is consideration of Sheila Bork's resignation from the Budget Finance Committee.
Motion to accept Sheila
She
Burke's
has
resignation.
moved out of, not only out of town, but out of the state. So
Yep.
but she's no longer eligible to be on there. So is there a motion to accept her resignation?
Motion
Yep.
to accept her resignation.
Second.
All those in favor? Seeing all hands raised, motion is carried. And that is all the items. So next item would be public comment.
Mr. Levitt has his hand up, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead. You're muted still.
Try to unmute. Okay.
Yep.
Is it good? Okay, thank you. Charles Levitt, East Raymond. A quick observation is officially I have attended more select board meetings in 2021 than Selectman Taylor. I also want to first thank Kathy Goslin and Alex Soroy, and even, this is surprising, Bernstein and Shaw's Zach Brandwine for their compassionate and professional handling of the Jared Marston Shaker Woods Road public hearing and hopeful resolution. The people of Raymond would expect no less. The response of the select board and the town manager unfortunately did not match that of the staff. A thank you to Selectman Bullock for doing the right thing in regards to the coming election, and Sheila Bork for standing down from budget finance since moving from Raymond. Mark Gendron also did this many years ago when he moved out of town and resigned from the select board, and I was honored to be appointed to fill his seat for the remaining year of his term. There may be hope yet that a currently serving select board member will do the same. Also, a thank you to Dana Desjardins and Abigail Gear for filing nomination papers for the Select Board. Vote for them and write them in for Budget Finance Committee. They'll need 25 signatures each. In closing, I wish to warn the people of Raymond about the upcoming municipal budget. Over the years, I have learned many of the tricks and gimmicks played with the numbers to cover up unnecessary and overspending in salary, benefits, bonuses, and programs. All one has to do is watch a budget committee meeting and see two previous chairs of the budget committee, now selectmen, and a nearly 4-decade veteran town manager feign surprise of an illegal $100,000 error in the tax increment finance district to know that something smells. The TIF trick has been played twice before in this town by some of the same players, and this year is no different, except for some innocent questioning by a new finance director. Take a close look at this year's budget and ask yourself if this is how your job or business is organized, and if this town's level of staffing is justified for such a small town. Right-sized, we may not even need a new $5 million town hall. I encourage everyone, and hopefully we will have town meeting by ballot, and for folks to come out, and we've done this once before in the town, ask for a 5% decrease overall in expenditures for the town without any harm to the services, the necessary services that the town needs to provide. Thank you.
Other comments? Any selectman comment?
Nothing for me.
A town manager's report.
Okay. First, we're going to confirm dates for the upcoming regular meetings, May 11th and June 15th. I have a reminder of upcoming holiday schedule. We have Monday, April 19th, Patriots Day. And now we have the reminder of the upcoming remainder of our budget schedule, April 27th. That's the Budget Finance Committee budget article recommendations at 6:30. That will be via Zoom. Town meeting at Jordan Small Middle School gym. And this is the question we still need to decide. I guess we've got June 1st, 2021 open town meeting, if we can have it, at 6 p.m. and or June 8th, 2021 town elections. And if we vote the town warrant via secret ballot, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
All right. Next item would be to go into executive session. I have a motion.
Motion.
Oh, go ahead.
Second. I don't have the thing in front of me, I'm sorry. What's the, I'm sorry, my phone just died on me.
It's executive session pursuant to MRSA.
SA 4056A,
Second,
MRSA 4056A.
all right, second, sorry, my phone just died.
In 4056C.
C.
Second,
All those in favor? We will go into executive session if you want to put us into the breakout room. Out of executive session.
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right, I'd like to make a motion to direct Sue to do the Spirit of America and the town report dedication work that needs to be done on that. And I'd like to make a motion to direct Teresa to continue discussing with the concerned entity.
Second,
All those in favor? Motion is carried. Seeing no other business on the agenda, the meeting is now adjourned.